Hello everyone, how are you? Today I bring you a very simple tutorial on how to shade in Procreate. This is a method I use most of the time in my drawings and it's very easy and quick to use. I'll also show you how to add highlights at the end, so be sure to stick around. So let's start by first preparing our document. You can open a drawing you already have or start a new one. If you want to keep things simple, you can even just create a new canvas and draw a simple shape like a circle or a square. I've made a simple color drawing for this video, so that's what I'll use. Be sure to have your line art in one layer and your base colors in another. And now it's time to create a new layer for our shadows. This layer should stay between the line art and base colors. Now tap the N icon in the shadows layer and then change its blending mode to multiply. Once that's done, lower the opacity to about 50%. This can be changed later, but it's a good number for now. Finally, tap the layer and then set it as clipping mask. Now the shadows layer is clipped to the layer below. This means that whatever you do here will take into account what's on the layer below. So as you can see, even if I draw out of the lines, it won't appear. If I disable the clipping mask option, you'll see that every stroke is visible again. Now that everything is ready, it's time to choose a brush and start drawing our shadows. When it comes to brushes, it's all up to your own preference and taste. For example, if you prefer soft shadows, something inside the airbrush category, like the soft brush or soft blend, are good choices. On the other hand, you might want to use only one brush for the whole illustration. I like to use a studio pen or dry ink pen for drawing, for example, and I usually use them for the line art and shadows. Okay, back to the shadows. Everything is ready, but where should you draw them? Even though a lot of the time we might bend the rules a bit for a better mood and atmosphere in our drawings, we can't just randomly start painting shadows and hope for the best. Now, shading in general is very complex and there are a lot of terms to learn, but we're going to keep things very simple here. First, we need to choose where our light is coming from. Once that's decided, the only thing you have to remember is that your shadows are always drawn on the opposite side of the light. So, if your light is coming from the right side, then your shadows will be mostly drawn on the left side. And the same is true for any other direction. You can even draw a small arrow in your canvas indicating where the light is coming from so you don't forget. Alright, with that out of the way, you can now paint your shadows. Just go through the whole drawing without rushing. You can even try different brushes and see what looks more interesting to you. Try different light sources as well. Depending on where the light is coming from, the whole mood of a painting can change, so it's something that is worth exploring. Once you're done with painting shadows, it's time to add adjustments to them. For example, you can now play with the layer's opacity. The more opacity, the more contrast you add to your drawing. If, on the other hand, you want the shadows to look very soft and with minimal contrast, add more transparency to them. Again, the mood and atmosphere you're going for play a part here, so make the adjustments according to it. Now let's say you drew your shadows using an inking pen, but now decided soft shadows look better. You can very quickly change that by adding a blur to them. To do it, just go to the Adjustments tab and then tap Gaussian Blur. Now move the slider around until you achieve the desired result. Now what if instead of softness, you want to add texture, or even have both? That works too. Again, go to the Adjustments menu and then tap Noise. Move the slider again to one side or the other until you're satisfied with the result. And with that done, our shadows are finished. As you can see, even though shading is a very complex subject, you can still do it with a simple method. Now let's take the opportunity and add a few highlights as well. To do that, just add a layer on top of everything and then pick a light color close to white or even white. This time, when it comes to the highlights, we can draw them on the same side as the light source. I tend to keep highlights very simple and paint them only if there are easily reflecting materials such as jewelry and plastic or metallic objects. So I keep the opacity all the way up and add a few highlights here and there. But just like before, you can adjust them to something you prefer and add them to more places. The only thing you have to remember is that shadows go on the opposite side of the light source and the highlights are drawn on the same side as the light source. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you can watch more tutorials and art tips. And remember, keep on drawing.